Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to add HD radio to your base model or XLT Ford Explorer. This video specifically applies to the 2016 to 2019 model, but it will also apply to the 2011 Up Explorer. Alright, so just real quick, it's kind of important to understand how the stereo systems on these later model Explorers work. As you can see, they're not set up like older cars where you had a very definitive unit that was the stereo. Instead, what we have is, depending on the trim level, you have a controller, a screen here, and obviously the buttons that control it, which are all just controls that are broadcast over the CAN bus network. And they are broadcast to the actual receiver unit that looks something like this. Now on my 2018 Explorer, that was the year they started to do away with CD players, and that would be right here. So I set out to upgrade my stereo to have HD radio because where I live there are a lot of stations that take advantage of the technology, and it's something that'd be really nice to have, not just for sound, but for the additional stations that comes along with it. So although my factory unit had satellite radio built in, it's missing the HD radio component. So I went on eBay, and after a little bit of research, I found the part that I need for my particular year of Explorer. And I'll leave that in the description below. But the main thing when you're looking online for these units is right here where it says S-Stars EIN. That's for satellite radio, which I don't use. But then right below it, it says HD radio technology manufactured under license from Ubiquity Digital Corporation. So basically what we're looking for is that little line there will only be there if it is capable of supporting HD radio. So you can see that this unit does have a CD player, even though my Explorer doesn't have one. So there's a couple ways we can handle that. I could either try to find the correct faceplate to utilize the CD player, or in my case, I don't ever listen to CDs. We're just going to use this and cover it right back up, and you won't even know there's a CD player built in, because that's the only difference. So if you watch my videos, you've seen this upgrade before, except it was in my 2015 F-150. And it's almost the exact same process, except in my F-150, I was upgrading on a system that already had a Sync 3 installation, so the larger 8-inch touchscreen, whereas this is the Sync 1 non-touchscreen base model stereo. And you can, in fact, add HD radio to it. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to make a few setting changes. I'm going to go in and connect to my factory receiver and the display here, and we're going to save a copy of the settings, and then I'll show you a few things that you need to change. So the reason I'm making a copy of all these, basically I'm going to read the modules, and I'm going to save the data. That way if something happens in the programming process, I can put everything back the way it was. Alright, so I personally use this stick SVCI J2534 model, and I'm going to be using it with the program called ForScan, which is a free download, and you can get a free extended license. There'll be links in the description. This is a more expensive unit. It works a little better because there's nothing you have to do. But there is a cheaper model that if you don't really work on the car much, it just has a little switch that you need to flip, and I'll have a link to that in the description as well, that I used for many years, and it works just fine. So I'm going to plug this in to my OBD2 port under the dash, and then I'm going to plug the USB cable into my computer. Alright, now go ahead and load up ForScan. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to the vehicle in ForScan. Click the connect button.
Make sure the key is turned forward. Obviously, this procedure will vary slightly depending on if you have the BB Fly version. If you've never connected before, you'll click no here. I'll select 2018 since that's the model year. Alright, so what 4K scan is doing is going through and recognizing all of the modules in the car. So for the purposes of this video, there are 3 modules that we need to modify. The first one is the audio control module, the ACM. And what that is the actual receiver stereo part itself. So if we go over here and we click the little chip, it shows all of the module programming that we can do. So again, we're going to be modifying the ACM, or the audio control module. We're also going to be modifying the APIM right here. And the third module we're going to be modifying is the FCDIM, or the front control display interface module. Before we tear apart the dash, I'm just going to make a backup of the ACM that is in there currently. You could make a backup of all these right now if you wanted to. So to do that, I'm going to go back up to the ACM down here, the as-built format. We're going to click the play button to run that. And we'll read all these blocks, and basically we want to click down here, save all, and then we want to pick something that makes sense. So it gives you your VIN number, the audio control module, the date, the time, and we would pick something like default before HD radio, or something to that effect. Okay, so we'll click OK, that'll save that. We'll stop the procedure. Again, if you want to go ahead and back all of them up right now, I'm going to go ahead and back up the APIM. So module configuration, as built format, same thing. Just click save all, and you can, again, default or before HD radio, whatever you want to say there. And then stop that, and we'll go to front control display interface module, run that. Okay, and same thing, save all. You'll type what you want and hit OK. I've already done this. Alright, so now we will go ahead and disconnect and remove the stereo.
Now it's time to physically remove the old stereo. So you want to get yourself like a trim removal tool, something plastic, that way you don't scratch up your dash. Alright, so there's kind of a combination of, up here you can see there's this little button. So you want to pry it out and then pull it sideways, kind of like that. Then there's just one more clip down here at the bottom. So you can see there's this little tab that engages that little push pin tab there. So just keep that in mind. We can always take this out. Then we go to reinstall it. They have that area kind of beefed up there with that because police departments usually mount like a microphone in this area there, and it keeps this thing a little more stable. So again, same thing on the other side. Again, pull that out, kind of pull it to the side, pop this push clip out. Go ahead and reinstall it back in here. Set that aside. So now we're left with, it's like some 7mm screws that are holding this in place. I was just going to tell you, be careful not to drop them like I just did. Okay, so now to get the stereo out, I'm just going to kind of pull on it. This, you can see there's really nothing much holding it in place. And there's just this one little connection back here that we'll need to undo. And then set that aside somewhere where it's not going to get all scratched up. So now you can see what I mean, the difference. The stereo without the CD player just has this blank metal plate over the front like that. So you can even see on this unit here where it's got the spot for the CD player. It's just a different piece of plastic on the front. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could cut this, but it'd probably end up looking like crap. So, something to keep in mind. Alright, so we're going to remove this unit here with these 4 screws. So one thing to note, if you do have a subscription to satellite radio, you will have to update it with the new EIN off of the new unit you get, because the satellite radio module is built in to the ACM here. Get those 4 out. Just pull it straight out. You can see on the back, so the yellow connector is on the outside. You don't have to memorize that because the corresponding connector is colored. So we're just going to push these tabs and pull all these out. So obviously this unit's a little bit heavier because it's got a CD mechanism in it. But you can see everything matches up. If we look here, kind of see what I mean. It has the S-Stars EIN, but there's nothing below that. So this is manufactured May 25th, 2018. This one says manufactured September 20th, 2017. The part numbers start the same, JB5T 18D832 AB for the factory part. This one is JB5T 19C107HA. Alright, so again, just the reverse removal. Go ahead and plug in our antennas. One is our satellite antenna, one is our FM radio antenna. And then we'll plug in our other wiring connections. You hear the CD player winding up in there. Guess I could also say this is how to upgrade your new Explorer to have a CD radio if that was really important to you. Some people probably still like listening to CDs. Okay, let's go ahead and put this back in. We're gonna set it back in place here. I'm not gonna completely push it in just yet. I'm gonna go ahead and, I guess we can put it like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try some stuff out here, and we will see if we got anything accomplished. Alright, so I can assume that the as-built data that's in the unit that we just put in is out of a higher trim level Explorer. So probably one that has Sync 3. So I'm going to go ahead and try it out the way it is and see what works, but we may have to do a little more programming in Forescan. We'll go ahead and see how it works the way it is.
This lawyer several times.
The Sirius satellite radio works. The radio works. The problem I'm having is the volume control does not work on the stereo. It says Sirius firmware update in progress. Yeah, so the volume control. So satellite radio is working. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off for a second. So we need to get reconnected to ForeScan.
Okay, so the next step is we want to go to the APIM configuration. Now, for the APIM, we do not have to edit the as-built format, the hex codes. We can go right here to where it says right below it, APIM module configuration. And there's the guided mode that will allow us, if I click play, this will allow us to make the change we needed here automatically. It will do it for us. So just pay attention real quick up at the top where it says architecture type. Mine says CGEA 1.3. Yours might say CGEA 1.2 or something different. Just write that down. We're going to need that here in a few minutes. Okay, now I'm going to scroll down. At the very bottom here it says voice radio control AM FM CD DAB HD SDARS. So yours will probably say voice radio control HD disabled. So you want to tick that to enabled by double clicking on it. Hit the checkbox. And then in my case it says voice radio control SDARS is already enabled because it has satellite radio. So I'll have CD disabled, DAB disabled, in my case HD radio enabled and SDARS enabled. Okay, so what you'll do is then you'll click write down here in the corner and it will tell you to cycle the key on and off, and that will write the APIM. Then we're ready to go on to the ACM. So we're going to go back to the ACM here and we're going to click module configuration, as built format. The one below it does not give us the options we need. So we're going to hit OK. And then it's going to bring up all of our as-built data. The only thing we need to be concerned with is the first line, the 727-01-01. Okay, so here's what it looks like, my factory setting. See, the first number is a 5, the second digit is an 8. Alright, so I went to the ForeScan spreadsheet, and this one is actually for the 2015 to 2020 F-150. But because there is not a good spreadsheet for the Explorer out there, the actual coding of the modules is the same for a lot of the modules, and in this case for the audio control module. So right here it says 727-01-01, and we are in the ACM tab. It doesn't matter whether you do the 15 or the 18 to 20 because it's the same data for what we needed to change. So you saw, if we go back to ForeScan, we're looking first at the first digit. So that little one right there is a 5. See, it's 5800, so the first digit is a 5. So what that corresponds with is internal SDARS enabled APIM Gen 1, EFP CAN-based APIM available. Okay? So that's fine. We're going to leave that way. It's just saying, you know, we have a Gen 1 APIM, which we do. If you were upgrading to Sync 3, this is where you can change things, etc. But the one we need to be concerned with, the only one we need to be concerned with, is the second position. So right now, ours is an 8. So if we go over here to where it says 8, that means HD radio disabled, DAB not available, steering wheel controls not available. Don't worry about that. It's not talking about, you know, your steering wheel controls not working. And then it says CGEA 1.3. Now if you have a different number for the second position, find your corresponding number. Now the nice thing is what we need to change it to is directly to the left. So if you look over here in this column, it's a 0, means HD radio enabled, DAB not available, SWC not available, CGEA 1.3. So everything is the same over here. The only difference is HD radio is enabled with a 0. And these kind of correspond the same way across. So you find your number, go over here, make sure everything else matches. So I need to change that second position in the ACM to a 0. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to change the 8 to a 0. Okay. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to hit write all, which I've already done, but you will write all. And what that will do, it will, again, might give you a warning. It will tell you to turn the key on and off. And you will have enabled HD radio on the system itself. It's just 5, a 0, and then a 0, 0. And if it gives you a warning about a checksum error, it's okay. Just go ahead and run the procedure. It will fix to the checksum. Okay, so now I am done with the audio control module. I can hit stop. The last thing I need to program is that front control display interface module, or the FC DIM. So I'm going to click on it. Alright, so if I click run on the front control, the FC DIM, we're going to load. Okay, so this is my factory values. The only one we're concerned with is the first line, 7A5-01-01. We're going to skip the first 4. The second 4 digits, what I need. Mine says 0408. I need to change the last digit to a 9. So I'm just going to click here, change that to a 9, and then I'm going to hit write all. I've already done this, but when you click write all, it might give you a checksum error, which is fine. You can see once it's done, it changed this one to a 6 over here, but you do not do that. Just change that 1 to a 9. Click write all. And that is the last thing we need to flash to get this working. So I can click stop, go up here to the eye, come down here, click disconnect from vehicle, and then go ahead and turn it off, turn it back on, make sure your radio's on, turn to a station with HD, and you'll see it says HD acquiring. There's a new option we have on the screen here, which that's what we just enabled in that FC DIM. And now I'm connected to HD. So I've got high quality digital audio. I've got multiple stations here on the same channel. You can see that's -2. You can just change that by using the tune button. You can go back and forth. You can actually save the presets differently, like the -1 and -2, just by pressing and holding on them. That's really all there is to it. Just a quick, easy way. I spent about, it was around $80 on eBay to buy that ACM module. I got it from, just like a used parts place. You can find them. They vary in price from, like $50 up to about $180 to $200, just depending. I'll leave the part number in the description for one I used. Again, mine's on a 2018-19 model. It said that check the compatibility. A lot of times it'll tell you what years it will work in. You just want to make sure that it is a similar part number to the one you have. But I will say that a lot of them are the same, because in my F-150 I use an Explorer ACM, and I just reflashed it because it had, like the volume control settings. The internals of most of the Ford stuff in the year ranges that are similar, the internals are pretty much the same thing. As you saw, even though I had a CD player, all the plugs lined up. It's all computer controlled now, and we have the ability with ForScan to change any of the computer settings that are necessary. So hopefully this helped you out. If you have a Explorer and you're trying to just add HD radio, or maybe you want to add satellite radio. So it's the same procedure to add satellite radio if you didn't have it. The only thing you'll need to add besides that is the satellite radio antenna. You will not have that wire behind the dash to add the satellite radio antenna, but you can buy an aftermarket one that will plug into the Ford stereo. You just have to find a place to run it to, preferably on top of the car. Some people do run a satellite radio and then just put it up in the dash, and it does work. So just keep that in mind. Again, when I reflashed all my settings and my serial numbers and stuff, I do have working satellite radio here.
XM subscription.
So it's just on a like a trial offer thing here. because I don't subscribe to it, but something to keep in mind. All right, so if the video was helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Hopefully you could see everything that I was doing. I wanted to take you through every step on how I did this, including some of the troubleshooting, because that's how you learn how to use FORScan. You can pretty much change anything you want, any kind of configuration that was possible. I don't even know if you could get this configuration from the factory where you had HD radio with a Sync 1 display like this, but it works. It was built to be able to work that way, maybe in another country, I don't know. All right, until next time, we'll see you later, and thanks for watching.